Simo and Goss for breakfast. Between the Lines.
What's this?
This is the original. This is the original and the best Between the Lines. So just repeating what happened when we walked in this morning, Kane and Kingy and their Fireball crew were throwing this around.
Coach's fireside, coach to ballers, the ballers brief.
Spitballers.
And ballers in it.
I don't mind that. Well, let's
ballers.
get stuck in. We'll see
What the coaches are saying. Okay, let's go back. This is your original. Let's have a listen to Craig McRae. He's talking about tagging. This was pre-game.
Watching it back, I was probably... It caught me off guard a bit how much he was getting tackled off the ball early. But I think he got some reasonable free kicks in the end to balance that out. We want our best players being the best players, but again, you tag someone, that comes at a cost to you. And so we hope they tag him this week, which I'm sure they will, but you've got to find a way of getting the best of both worlds. They tag Bontempelli.
So this was him basically taunting Ross Lyon, saying, come to us, we're ready for you.
I think he was taunting. I think he's making everyone aware this is going to happen. And umpires, if anyone, listen to this. So then there was a lot of attention on the tag, which he gets tagged all the time. But I think he truly believed what he said, but he didn't mind getting it out there. There'd be a strategic reason to do it.
Kingy on First Crack last night said he watched the whole game back specifically for the Windhager role on Daicos. I said, get a life, 120 minutes, you won't get back.
I don't reckon he watched the whole game back, but anyway.
Claims he did. Anyway, and there was a lot of incidents. Sometimes the umpires were looking off the ball. He thought it was well done by Daicos and well done by Collingwood. They got the job done. They blocked. They made space for him.
Yeah.
He decoyed himself. Ross Lyon had this to say post-game about Windhager and some of the free kicks for Nick Daicos.
I think they both had their moments, right? I think Daicos had a fair bit of ball. He had more entries. He moved around. I thought we handled that. I don't know. We'll probably go early, look at a couple of those free kicks. I'm not sure they're free kicks. But I think we'll take that in and ask the question. Yeah. Are there two sets of rules going around? I'm not sure. I don't know. What did I say that?
No, he's allowed to say.
Thoughts?
Well, yeah, I think he's trying to defend his player and defend the move because they didn't win. And the question from Fly was, we hope they do it because we think we can manipulate it and push it to a point where we're going to make it an advantage for us. And what he's talking about is when you defend as a team and you've got one person he's defending on his own, he's defending one player, you can strategically put your player in a position where it might free up some space. So I reckon that's what happened with Collingwood. I reckon Ross is justifying the role because I think it still works if you can take out the best player in your opposition side and sacrifice a bit of team defence. And,
It didn't work, though. He got 30 touches and kicked a goal.
No, sometimes it just... when you're getting tagged... Well, actually, you wouldn't know. But if you're getting tagged... I've tagged a lot of players and I've been tagged a little bit. The first thing you do is just beat them. And then the second, you always got a plan B and C when you're getting run with, and we used to always teach that with a Luke Shuey or Elliot Yeo. It's like, we're not going to start you half forward because you're getting tagged. You're going to start where you're meant to start and just beat him. And then if it's a plan B, come off the back of the square or put you forward or put you deep, put you in these other areas. And then, by the way, at a stoppage, stand here because that'll free up someone else for us. So there's some stuff there that you can do to manipulate the side to help you win. Because in the end, what is it all about? It's about winning. And that's what St Kilda think they have to do to win, is to take out the best player because of where they're at. And Collingwood accept it and will do whatever it needs to do to help win. So,
going a little bit differently to Between the Lines, and we heard Ross Lyon there say, I don't think I'm allowed to say that.
Do that a lot now.
Yeah, so that's their out clause to saying, it's just a slip of the tongue, and the AFL doesn't.
I don't think the AFL actually rings anymore. I don't think they go. I don't think I've ever got a phone call about, hey, listen, what did you say about the umpires? You can't do that. I think they've been really lax for 10 years about the coaches saying things about, I can't talk about that because it's a tribunal. Even when they do talk about it, I don't think there's any phone calls made. So, yeah, I think that's just a good way for the coaches to say, I don't want to talk about it because I'll get in trouble, because you don't.
Yes.
On Simo and Goss for breakfast. Coach's Call.
Thanks to our very good friends at Hungry Jack's, the all-new Eggs Benny, only at Hungry Jack's, craving something fancy on the fly. brand new eggs, Benny, and let's hope our man McGovern, if he does get us some takeaway, he hasn't consumed it by the time he gets here.
He's got to be careful, and we do, to body shame the big fella.
Let's go. Well, he's been it's one thing
himself.
One thing he's not. He's in pretty good nick.
He is.
Don't worry about it. Hey, let's just quickly go back as we dissect the round. You had more time to reflect on Fremantle's performance against Essendon.
Not really, and I think it was what it was. It was a mature performance. I like the way they handled post-game. I like the way they handled post-game the week before, about just the maturity of winning is now become a habit and not an event, and losing or winning. Like the North game they won, and it wasn't a very good game, was it? They just scraped, but it wasn't a catastrophe. It was just, and I thought the way Longy's handling the press is different. The last 5 or 6 weeks, dominant around the ball. Clearances, when they're on top around the ball, they're going to win. They were plus 18 at clearances, and I think in the end that was the difference. It was 8 goals, 4 each from turnover, but from stoppages it was 8 goals to 1. So that was a really good strength from Fremantle's point of view.
Big night for Brisbane, 14-8-92. Geelong, 6-15-51, 41 points. Brisbane down there, first win down there since Chris Scott kicked the winning goal down there in the early 2000s. But can I ask, you probably go, I can feel like I know what the answer's going to be. Can teams get sidetracked? And I talk of Geelong, experienced group, experienced coaching staff, good team, but can they get sidetracked? The Patrick Dangerfield 350th.
Well, there's a few things with this game. One is that, and yes and no. I think Chris would be the first one to say, well, it doesn't worry us. We don't need a 350 for motivation, and that's true. But it's just there. It's in terms of the acknowledgement, which you got to do. So Danger handles that really well, doesn't he?
Yep.
Then there's the shirts that they all put on in the crowd. That's got nothing to do with the team. Then there's the pre-game. Do you mention it? Then there's the kids running out. All the stuff that's not really that big a deal, but it's just there. And sometimes it might get in the way of performance, but after 5 minutes, no, I don't think it. I don't think it would. You'd like to play well for your mate. You like to win in a milestone game. More often than not, you don't. But it's probably more about Brisbane this game and what they did, because Geelong, they get a spare all the time, and they've got at least 4 ways of getting a spare behind the play, and you can spend a lot of time taking that away. Let's not get Stewart free. Let's tag Stewart. Let's play 6 forwards. Let's equalise if a ruck drops. You go through all these things from a coaching point of view.
Did you tell me once that Chris Scott was almost the toughest to coach against?
Well,
if he's so random?
If you want to stop that, yes. But what Fags does in Brisbane, they go, they're going to get a spare. Who cares? We'll play our way, and let's make sure when we enter our 50s, we change angles. So there's always one thing you want to take away from opposition. If you start taking 2 or 3 things away, then you can get a bit, locked into the oppo.
Yeah, it just felt like one of those nights where I sort of said this to the players: what could go wrong did go wrong, and that happens. It happens to the best teams, and I don't know where we are in the comp now, but I think again, just moving forward, to sit back and think, okay, 10-5, go into the bye, we've got opportunity. So I don't think we'll be dwelling on this one for too long.
Interesting. Like the game started with Brisbane clearances, midfield, and they'd probably bat deeper than Geelong, and then it finished with transition. So they've kicked 10 goals from turnover, Brisbane. They kicked 7 goals, 4 from the back half. So a bit short of back line with Payne not playing, a bit more bounce with Zorko, and they've kicked most of their scores from the back half, which is not really a Geelong type of game. So interesting game to look at, but both press conferences were handled pretty well, pragmatic.
Cam Rayner is an interesting watch. When you expect him to be good, but he was dynamic. That was the Cam Rayner that I think everyone expects to see almost every week. He's so
You're not going to
strong.
see it every week, are you?
No.
But do the right things at the right time. Like I said, the midfield bat's so deep that he's just a bonus when he needs to be in there.
North Melbourne, we touched on this. We opened up the show. Of course, all the heat's going to be on Carlton, all the shows tonight. We're talking about what they're going to be talking about. There's no doubt it'll be Carlton. There'll be no doubt it'll be the 3/4 time spray. I think it was for Jackson Binns, and a lot of people do, where it was aimed at. But in the end, as you said, what does this say about both teams? North Melbourne with an 11-point win do they have more wins in store? Can they get to a 7-win level this year? And what do Carlton do now in the run home, because they're really losing touch? Probably Sydney in that group that have lost touch with the top 9. They're the only team.
I don't think you want to play Sydney in the next 5-6 weeks.
Something about them.
So let's just look to three-quarter time, because I think the last quarter is a bit of – you'll paper over some of the cracks. So at three-quarter time, the inside 50s were one different, but the scoreboard was 46 points different. So it probably says a little bit more about the system rather than strategy, because if you're 50 points down and the inside 50s are pretty much the same. So contested possession, now minus 14 Carlton. The clearances between the arcs was interesting. So North +8 and North kicked 5 goals from stoppages in the front half. So when North bring their their biggest strength, and it's around their mids and clearances, I thought Carlton were going to match them in that, and they didn't. So as soon as Carlton lower their colours in that area, they don't have a lot of other things to lean on. They need to win contest and clearance to win games. And when they don't do that, the rest of the game looks really vulnerable. And they're missing Newman. They really are. They're missing a rebounding defender, and we're talking about playing others down back. But, yeah, the skill and the defence, they don't have both.
Sydney, 9-17. 71, beat Port Adelaide 7-10-52, so a 19-point win this game. This was Ken Hinkley post-match.
We couldn't get any entries, and we're going to have 35 entries or something for the day. So if you don't get entries, you're going to find it really, really hard to score. To be fair, the scoreboard was flattering.
Over possession, did you feel like?
No, I hate that conversation around over possession. Over possession comes about because of the opposition's pressure, I reckon, as much. So we disregard what their pressure's doing to us, and that will lead you, Matt, to a few extra handballs under pressure, because I think that's just the heat in which they close the space. And that does come out like that at times, but I don't think it's a deliberate ploy. It's just something that the opposition force you into too much.
Sydney led for 117 of the 117 minutes. Port Adelaide never had a taste of the lead at any stage.
No.
At home.
No, and it looked like the old Sydney, didn't it? Yeah, it looked a little bit dangerous. So, yeah, 51 inside 50s to 35. The goal kicking was an issue for Sydney, but outside of that, it just shows you how important some of those players are around the ball. When they get the full team back together, they're going to do some damage, and their confidence is starting to grow. And what Coxie's been trying to do is get them to have a bit more stability, the underbelly a bit tougher, so a bit more defence, a bit more contested nature, because as much as everyone talks about Sydney's the Bloods and all this type of the contested stuff hasn't been great the last few years. So maybe it's starting to click. Maybe.
Collingwood on top of the ladder. They did what they needed to do, 108 to 74. It wasn't their best performance. What did you make of Collingwood, where they're at? And again, we've already touched on St Kilda.
Yeah, they just did what they had to do, didn't they? I mean, they played at a level where I think we could all see it's time to push the button, and they can. So out of all the teams in the competition, they've got the ability just to rise when they need to. And it just felt, I thought St Kilda were really competitive compared to what I saw. I went and saw them live a few weeks ago, and I was confused. I didn't know what they were trying to do. It was like Ross was coaching his backside off to be competitive and not lose by a lot. Where on the weekend, it looked like there was a bit more system to what they were trying to do. So, yeah, I bet Collingwood just too much talent. On
Marcus Windhager and his role, are they wasting a good talent? Is he better than just being a tagger?
I don't know. I don't know. I think he's a good C-B grader, maybe. But he's good tagger. Like he did Tim Kelly a few years ago when TK won the best and fairest. He kept Tim to 4 possessions. Took out Harley Reid a few years ago. I think because you don't draft taggers.
No.
And the traits, the discipline and the ability to put the team first, and then to really think for 120. It's hard to just think for 120 minutes without switching off.
If you give a player a role like Marcus Windhager that Ross has given, do you tell him basically first thing during the week, that's you're going to be your role and this is who you're playing on? And they just basically spend the whole week looking at vision with somebody? Yep.
Yep. Earlier in the week, the better. 7
points, Giants, 16-10, 106 to Suns, 14-15, 99. They just got overrun. It was a big last quarter for the Giants. They absolutely were dominant there. This was Damien Hardwick about the loss post-match for the Suns.
Yeah, just flat. Like, end of the day, looked like his son's game for the vast majority of the games. But, unfortunately, when you sort of, they kick 8 goals in the last quarter sort of thing. We just didn't play our moments that well. We had opportunities where we could have won contests, stepped in, or the Tom Green example is probably the best one where a guy's jumper to try and smother the ball, like just nail the tackle. Like that probably summed it up. I just didn't think we played our moments anywhere near well enough. We did a lot right throughout the night, but unfortunately, when push comes to shove in big games like today, you got to nail those moments, and we just didn't.
Wow, yeah. Did you see the start?
Yeah.
It was a really good game. Really entertaining. The ground looked shocking.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah,
and the crowd was
shocking.
small too, 10,000.
Yeah.
It's just not. I mean, they've been in the competition long enough to get bigger crowds than 10,000.
Yeah, but they're playing another team with a low supporter base. So, but yeah, the game in itself I thought was one of the better games of the year. Anyway, centre bounces. Gold Coast has kicked 5 goals out of the middle. Goss. So, when you have that much, 5 goals, 4 they kicked out of the middle. That must be some sort of record. And yeah, I think across the board, the Giants just showed a bit more maturity on how to handle a position where they were down by 20-odd points for most of the night. And in the last quarter, could you sense it was coming? Did you watch the game?
Yes, I watched it. Oh.
You sensed the last quarter it wasn't over.
No, correct.
Yeah.
And they're a bit of a bunny, the Suns, for GWS. 14 of 15 now.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is big. That was a big game for finals. Like they're out of the 8 now.
Yep.
They've had 68 inside 50s Gold Coast to 44. And you can count on one hand how many times you can win a game with only 44 entries to the opposition's 68.
Coach's call. We're doing it for Hungry Jacks, the all-new Eggs Benny, only at Hungry Jacks. We'll get a breakaway. Coach's call. Thanks to the great team at Hungry Jacks, the all-new Eggs Benny, only at Hungry Jacks. Jeremy McGovern after 7:30. Western Bulldogs easily over Richmond.
Yeah.
No shock.
No, but they just probably made you realise how powerful the Bulldogs can be. Like with the way they handled Richmond, it was a professional thumping, wasn't it? And it's start to finish, really. So, yeah, they're going to be a threat. I actually did my ladder predictor, which, and I had them out of the 8 Bulldogs. Then I realised I forgot 2 games to put them in. So I think they're going to be okay. I mean, their clearance work, they'll plus 10 from clearances, plus 700 metres from clearances, which is a lot. But their turnover game, they've kicked 15 goals 5 to 4 goals 5 from turnovers. And, they've kicked 7 goals from centre forward turnovers. So it was just, they did what they had to do. And I think Richmond, they're showing some spirit and fight. But last night was just too big of a talent gap.
It's going to be a big finish for them. They're going to try and hang on. They keep playing their kids, and they certainly don't look disheartened. When their senior players do something, kick a goal, they're still up and about. Hopper and Presti, they seem like they're trying to keep it.
I spoke to Ooze before the season started, and we worked together I was a forward line coach at Hawthorn, and he was the development coach of the forward line. So that was back in 2012. So there's a little relationship there. And I said, what do you want to project? What are you pushing? What would you like me to talk about? And he said, we just want to fight and show some spirit. And I'm thinking that's what I've seen. So it's it'd be great to sneak a couple of wins here and there, or close games or close losses, but I think for the most part they're showing what he wanted them to give, and that's a bit of fight.
I want to give a round of applause, thanks to our friends at Nutrimate. Get some Nutrimate into your furry, mate. The continued form of Rory Lobb. 21 disposals, 13 marks.
He's becoming a cult hero.
He is in the discussion, All-Australian squad discussion. He's had a big year.
Yeah. I'd absolutely agree with that. And he's for a guy, he was maligned here, wasn't he? He wasn't.
Been maligned everywhere he's gone. He was maligned 18 months ago at the Bulldogs until they pushed him down back and made him stay down there. And now he's playing like
shows
David
how
Dench.
easy it is down there.
For a shiny coat and a healthy team and teeth and gums, get Nutrimate into your furry, mate.